going to be talking about versus one cloud platform, which is what our platform is. And a little bit about me. I have been in the industry for 25 plus years, all the way from pagers to cell phones to on-prem systems and now cloud-based systems, along with any type of internet circuits, connectivity, call centers, you name it. I've designed it, configured it, and implemented it. Throughout this webinar, I just wanted to let you guys know that you're going to be muted. And I would say any questions that you have, we can address at the end. I also wanted to let you know that this webinar is being recorded, obviously, so we can share it and use it in the future for future customers. So at this point, I'm going to take my camera off and let you guys focus on the webinar. So the agenda today, we're going to do, again, the introduction of what on-prem versus a cloud-based system is, and then why you're basically joining, why an on-prem system is becoming outdated, very costly, and what one cloud or what a cloud-based system looks like and what the advantages are. And at the very end, we'll do kind of a questions and answers, and hopefully I can answer all of your questions that you give me. So when we talk about who is Telware and how did we get here? So we began our business and our venture back in 1984. We started out with AT&T legacy systems, which then became Lucent, which became Avaya. So we have dealt with a lot of on-prem systems. So anywhere from ComDial, Avaya systems, Nortel systems, hosted systems like 3CX. And as we kept going through to where we are today, the reason that we got here with our One Cloud product is because we noticed that every one of those companies, if you hadn't heard of any of them that we spoke about, a lot of those companies changed their way of doing business, their way of handling us as partners. And some of those companies that I mentioned aren't even in business anymore. So around 2016, we decided that we weren't going to be at the mercy of those companies anymore or become a reseller for those companies anymore. And we said that we were going to develop our own platform. So our own platform is called One Cloud. So the difference between us and maybe another company that you've heard of that does any type of cloud-based systems or people who are selling cloud-based systems is one, we're not a reseller. We're actually known by the FCC as a carrier. So what does that mean? That means that we not only take care of your phone system needs, so any type of connectivity to that system, to that cloud-based system, but we also are the voice carrier. So at that point, we would port the numbers over, and then you would be on our system. Alex, if you could, yeah, sorry. So what is an on-prem phone system? I know some of you on the call have a mixture of both. So an on-prem phone system is a piece of hardware that is sitting somewhere in a closet in your headquarters, in a facility that you own. It could also be hosted in a data center or somewhere off premise, but it's the brains of the system that basically your telephones talk back to. So when we talk about connectivity or voice connectivity, we're talking about PRIs. voice lines, analog lines, or SIP trunks that are being delivered via voice from a carrier like Spectrum, a carrier like Windstream. So all of those particular voice paths that are delivering your voice channels are dependent on power. So when we look at a cloud-based system, an on-prem system, that's kind of a negative. The reason that it's a negative is because they're all dependent on power. They're dependent on a circuit. And what happens when that circuit goes down? That circuit goes down, you have to call the carrier. You have to tell that carrier to reroute your main number. Sometimes it goes to somebody's cell phone. So now it is someone's responsibility to field all of those phone calls. We also look at the cost of a on-prem phone system. So in an Avaya world, every single extension takes a license, and that license has a cost associated with it. And it's a 1-to-1 ratio. So basically I have a user and I have a license that I have to pay for. So we also look at in that server, in that piece of hardware that is housing all the brains of the system, we have cards, we have licenses, we have software that again is sitting on-prem somewhere. So the reason that it's cost inhibited is because there's more parts and pieces within that system that can break. When we find systems that are out of date, like Nortel, ComDial, when people are moving from one system to the other and parts and pieces are no longer available, then there's not a lot of vendors to support that as well. So as we go to a cloud-based system, we find less and less vendors or less and less technicians that are educated on how those systems are configured, how they're programmed. There's a lot of systems that people will have to physically come on site and to program those systems, to make simple changes. The fact that you have to go in and maybe change an auto attendant or re-record an auto attendant all the time is not efficient. So, and with all of those on-prem visits from that vendor, it is a cost associated with it as well. So cloud solutions. So the biggest thing that we find with cloud solutions is that when I start talking to customers, the first thing I ask, because I know the limitations of a cloud or a on-prem system, is I know they're probably using 3 or 4 different vendors or applications outside of that system. And the reason for it is that the limitation of that telephone system itself. Back to an example of the Avaya system. The Avaya system doesn't have a lot of features and functionality outside of call routing auto attendants. So what a lot of people are doing is they're going outside because SMS, what we like to call alert blast, and we'll go into it a little bit further as we go, but looking at video solutions, looking at conferencing solutions, looking at Teams, people are piecemealing and doing add-ons with other companies, and all of those are very, very expensive. So in a cloud-based solution, all of those integrations, especially with one cloud, our solution, all of those integrations are really important because one, it's an open API platform, which means that we can integrate with CRMs. We have over 70 plus CRMs that we integrate with. We have Teams, and just recently here in the last couple months, and I'm sure if you're an existing customer, you've received a bunch of emails because we're very proud to announce that we are Operator Connect certified through Microsoft. The reason that that is such a big deal is because there's less than 20 other companies throughout the world that are certified. It took us a very long time. So when we say we're a team shop, we're a Teams integrator, we're definitely a team shop. And then we talk about mobility flexibility. So everyone remembers COVID. COVID really launched the cloud further than and quicker than we thought it was going to. So on-prem system customers were in a situation where they said, wow, all of our workforce is working from home. What are we going to do? Does this system support me giving my phone to an employee, them working from home? If the phone isn't IP based, how are they going to work from home? So needless to say, we did a lot of transitions to an on-prem system to a cloud-based system because of COVID, because of the restrictions of coming into the office. So with that remote workforce, that is what a cloud-based system is going to give you that visibility into, whether it be a soft phone or a mobile app or a straight Teams user. So it's no longer about what device that you're using. It's just that your customer can reach you no matter where you are. And then we talk about failover and redundancy. So today, if we go back and we talk about an on-prem system where it's reliant on that voice protocol, so a PRI, voice trunks, analog trunks, again, they're dependent on, they're only as good as the power or local survivability within that facility. In the one cloud system, calls are still going on in the cloud. Again, all we have to do is say, what device do you want to use? If I lose internet connectivity locally at my business, then do I go to a Starbucks? Do I get Wi-Fi? Do I use my soft phone? Or my next phone call, I open up my mobile app and now I'm able to call and resume business. So these are some of the features and functionality within the One Cloud solution. So when we talk about phone, which I'm probably going to repeat myself in a few of these just to reiterate how the different applications apply to the One Cloud solution. So we've already talked about or touched on a mobile app. So the mobile app itself, it can be loaded on an iPhone, an Android phone. It can run off of 4G, 5G, and Wi-Fi. A soft phone is something that you would allow a remote user to work on a laptop, work on a desktop from home, and not have a physical phone. But it has all the dialing capabilities, all of the features, all the functionality, if not more, than they would get from having a regular telephone. And then there is a user portal. So the user portal for that user, they can actually see more in depth about recent calls, voicemails, which we transcribe, SMS messages. So it just gives more flexibility, again, as to what device do I need to be on to do business. Messaging. So this is one of the things I touched on before to say a lot of companies are using outside sources for chat, for SMS, for, again, what we call alert blast. So when we're talking about SMS, if you guys are not familiar, SMS is the ability for someone to send from their direct inward dial number, their DID, that is associated or linked to their extension, to an outside cell phone number. And there are some companies, and the best example I can give you is an HVAC company will have a couple different campaigns, is what we call them. One could be an alert, so a massive blast of a canned message that is sent out to a variety of people that they have chosen to either market to or their customer base. So in a HVAC example, we look at maintenance. So they're famous for every fall and every spring, hey, here's a reminder to give us a call to set an appointment for your quarterly maintenance, for your yearly maintenance, so we can do a checkup. In a school situation or an education situation, we would see alert blast or a canned message if there was an emergency situation, if there was a lockdown need or situation. And they could basically say, how do I want to send this message out? I could want to send it out via SMS, via overhead paging, via an email, or call somebody on a phone. And of course, in schools, we all know that that is super important for them to be able to give out any type of emergency situations to that end user, or to that parent, or to anyone on campus that doesn't have the visibility of what is going on. Same with a manufacturing facility that might be dealing with chemicals and there's an emergency situation. We find that more and more companies are finding a need. I just had a call this morning from one of my customers, Habitat for Humanity, and he said, we were building offsite a house and there was a shooter, a live shooter that was in the vicinity, and we needed to let everyone know, and we didn't have the capability. What is it going to take, Cherie, for you to sign me up to give me that capability? And I went through that pricing and that structure with him. We also have the mobility, which we already talked about, and then we have video. So what I see is a lot of companies are using Teams now, and for us, that is completely fine. When we talk about our video capability, we have it built in, which is called One Cloud Meet, and it is a HD video. So as far as a user goes, they can use it for themselves, or a company can use it if they're not a team shop, or they're not using Teams, or they just want a one-on-one video. Then we have that capability. We also have webinar capabilities that are built into our platform as well. Now, faxing. Everyone has said faxing is going away. We don't need fax machines anymore. But the problem is every single company I go to, the owner might say, we don't need faxing anymore. The IT company might say, we don't need faxing anymore. But when we dive down deep into it, especially in healthcare, they say, no, we still need a fax machine. So we appeal to all different platforms in that realm, which means that I can still support on our system a fax, which is what we call the hosted fax, which means you can still walk up to a physical machine and receive or send out faxes manually. We have a fax to email to fax solution. And then we have a HIPAA secure fax, which is a HIPAA portal that you would log into secure, and you would attach whatever you had to attach, and then you could send it, which is encrypted. So some of the key differences between a on-prem system and a cloud system. So I will give you an example. We've already kind of covered the Avaya system. So any type of physical hardware, Nortel system, Condal, Samsung, you name it, whatever on-prem system is located at your facility, you need another piece of hardware in order for that system to fail over to. If you had an outage, if the one system failed to come up, if a card in there died, you would have to mimic licenses and duplicate software and create a different system. There's another system that we still support and we still actively sell. And the difference between a cloud-based system and a hosted system, and I'm referring to 3CX. So 3CX is a hosted system, different than a cloud-based system. So we are a reseller for 3CX, and 3CX we host in our data center. What does that mean? That means that if for some reason the 3CX system went down in one of our data centers, it would take a little while to reconnect and to fail over to our other data center. So for the customer, that does mean downtime. I also have another customer that moved from 3CX to OneCloud because of what we call in the industry the amount of hops that it had to make. So when a reseller is selling a product, then when they make a phone call out, it actually has to connect to wherever they're hosting it and then connect to that server that that company is physically at or hosting, or that connectivity comes through. So they were experiencing delays, they were experiencing issues with voice quality, and this is one customer in particular. And so when we move them from that 3CX instance over to the OneCloud instance, they saw a humongous difference right off the bat in voice quality and connectivity, and there wasn't a delay as far as dialing out to a customer and that customer saying hello or communicating. So in the cloud-based scenario, when it comes to hardware cost, what's really interesting is that because it's called cloud, it means that you pick a device, which we've gone through. So mobile app, soft phone, Teams, or a physical telephone. But the back end, all of that equipment that's sitting in your back room, that is the brains of it or the hardware, goes away. So the only thing I need is I need an internet connection and I need a PoE managed switch. And then just tell me what device I need to use. So as you can see, less hardware to physically fail or break. And when we talk about security, if you have a call center, if you have recordings, all of that, we have 4 data centers across the country. In the Microsoft data centers, we have them strategically placed because we do deal with nationwide customers. And so all of that as a data center and a security level is secured, is HIPAA secured as far as any type of faxed email exchanges and that portal as well. And then let's talk about flexibility and scalability. So in regards to the Avaya system, the Avaya system goes up to, I believe it's 318 or 328 extensions on a IP500 cabinet. And then what do I do beyond that? Now I add another cabinet and I add a whole bunch of cards. So with the cloud-based system, you can scale up, you can move down, you can move things around. There's no more, hey, I've got a digital phone and I need to reprogram something in the back end. Also with moves, adds, and changes, super easy because everything is browser based. So I'm not VPNing into Manager or a remote desktop session. And if I had inclement weather, or if I had something that I needed to change, or I was closing early, or I needed to just make a change as far as a voicemail reset, change a name, anything as simple as that, you can log on to the browser. We also give you what's called admin capabilities, and we train you on that. And again, pop open your laptop from anywhere, Chrome browser, Firefox browser, log in, and you have access to the system. For some reason, if you didn't have the time or didn't have the knowledge or didn't want to make the changes, then you could email us and we could make the changes on your behalf. So flexibility and mobility. We talked about local survivability. So again, dependent on a PRI, dependent on a voice carrier. That is no more in the cloud-based system because of, again, what do I want to use? I lose that local survivability because I had a power outage due to weather. I have an internet outage. And again, do I use my mobile phone? Do I use my soft phone? Do I use my Teams phone? Whatever device that you choose. What also is interesting is when we talked about that 1-to-1 ratio, again, in the Avaya example, I have a user and I have an extension licensed for that user. In the cloud-based system or in the one cloud system, we have one user and we have multiple devices. So when I talk about all these different devices that you can use or you can choose, even if I had a phone sitting at my office, I could also have that same extension with a physical phone if I wanted to, sitting at my home as well. Okay, so what does the cost look like and what are the biggest differentiators? So again, we talked about all the different types of connectivity that you have with an on-prem system that you might be paying for. In a 3CX model, might be paying for an instance fee. And because, again, reseller mindset or reseller platform. So that connectivity, as far as that hardened infrastructure, goes away. What also goes away when I look at somebody's platform or look at those connectivity bills is what I notice is PRIs are very expensive. Voice lines, analog lines have been decommissioned a couple years ago. So I have heard of faxes being upwards and onwards of $100 and some and more a month because those carriers want you to come off. SIP lines, which is just a different protocol of how voice is delivered over an internet circuit or a physical circuit brought in by the carriers. All of those things, including long distance charges. In the cloud-based world, long distance charges are no more because that protocol doesn't know the difference between a local call and a long distance call. And then analog lines. So even if you get an analog line from a carrier, you're still paying whatever it is, $40, $50 a month, again, onwards and upwards, depending on what device it's connected to. So those are some of those on-prem costs as far as connectivity. And then we have maintenance charges. So another good example is the Avaya system. The Avaya holds what's called IPOS. So it's IPO service and support. That says we can call Avaya on our behalf, on that customer's behalf, if we have some issues. Then we have a maintenance agreement. So some of you might be paying a monthly maintenance, and that is so we can come out and troubleshoot. If we need to do an upgrade, we can upgrade the software, which of course doesn't include labor. We can get you licenses. We can do moves, adds, changes for you. But from what I've seen in the system, it also includes, any type of defects as far as equipment goes or replacing equipment. So all of those can be very costly. And when I'm sitting down and I'm doing a ROI or return on investment for a customer, I find that we are typically in a savings when it comes to that. So a really good example is another company that I dealt with. They had 2 locations in North Carolina and 1 location in Florida. I analyzed their circuits. I analyzed their security that they had through a company called Verizon. I analyzed what they were paying for voice lines, what they were paying all the way around, all of these extraneous charges with the customer only had 55 users. He was literally outfitted like he was a 1,000+ employees company. So after analyzing all of his expenditures, putting him into a solution with what's called SD-WAN because of multiple devices, multiple locations, he could not withstand any failover. He couldn't withstand any type of downtime, and we built in failover for him. I ended up saving him about $16,000 a month and gave him a better solution, more scalable, and it was fit exactly for his company in all three locations. So that just gives you kind of an idea. So in that cloud-based cost or savings that we're looking at, we eliminate, and of course I use an acronym, but we eliminate a single point of failure, which we've talked about multiple times on this. So it eliminates the fact that now I'm dependent on somebody else's circuit. And now I move to a scenario where I just say, what device do I use to retain the connectivity? And then the maintenance. Maintenance is included for the life of the system. So that includes moves, adds, changes. It includes remote support. So I would say 99% of anything that we could troubleshoot or anything that we could go through, we can do it remotely now. And you can make changes remotely as well because of the browser-based application. So everybody talks about security, and I want to be clear that we are not a network security company. But we do have compliances that allows us to say all of your information in our data centers, anything as far as, again, call center recordings, data that is transferred back and forth, anything that you access on the One Cloud system is sitting and is secure and we actually have what is called a SOC, which means that it's a security protocol that we have to adhere to because, again, we're an FCC carrier and known as a carrier in the system itself. Disaster recovery, just basically finishing up and saying that when we're looking at an outage, as far as, let's say, one data center goes down as far as voice, that next phone call is going to be connecting to another data center. So we have built-in failover, built-in redundancy, and because we have so many data centers and support so many companies across the country, then we have to have that built in. Okay. So I'd like to take this time and see if there's any questions or anything else I can be a little more clear for you or answer anything that you might have regarding anything that we've covered. Alex, if you can allow them to speak. I know you have the controls there. Okay. Well, if no one has any questions, definitely here's my contact information. I know a couple customers I've seen already that are on here. And if you guys need more information, then I am happy to do a one-on-one and do a demo for you, or again, answer anything further that we might have covered. So thank you so much for your time, and I hope you have a great day.